Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you joining us. I'm Asta Gupta from People Matters, and I'm excited to lead this discussion in partnership with Darwinbox on the theme Refine, Communicate, and Excel Strategies for Optimizing Your Employee Value Proposition. In today's competitive talent landscape, organizations recognize the significance of a powerful EVP in attracting, engaging, and retaining top talent. A well crafted EVP aligns the company's mission, culture, and strategic goals while resonating with employees on a deeper level. But the challenge is that employee expectations continue to evolve. And with the introduction of more flexible working arrangements, revolutions in the digital space, disconnect and disengagement will remain primary concern. With the vision to support employers in this challenging journey, People Matters, in partnership with Darwinbox, is excited to bring to you this insightful discussion with industry leaders. We have an amazing lineup of speakers with us today. First up, we have Krishna Panda, who is the Senior Vice President and Head of Business HR, Total Rewards, Digital Transformation and Employee Experience for Bajaj Alliance Life. With over 17 years of experience in various facets of human resources, Krishna has specifically set up Total Rewards Department for many startup entities. He's designed plans that leverage market competitiveness while building alignment to overall business objectives. He's an expert at implementing sales incentive plans, LTIP and STIP for senior management, optimizing operating budgets for HR departments, and job evaluations. Welcome, Krishna.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is Ganpati Subramaniam, who is the CHRO of Sundaram Home Finance. Ganpati has over 20 years of experience in HR in manufacturing, FMCG, and servicing sectors. He has conducted more than 50 workshops in the areas of personality development, team building, achievement, motivation, time management, leadership for senior and middle level management executives. He's also a life member of the National HRD Network, Chennai chapter, and was recently elected as an executive committee member. Welcome, Ganpati.
Thank you.
We also have with us Uma Natarajan, Head, Center of Excellence for Darwinbox, who will also be moderating the discussion with us today. Uma has worked in several areas of HR across various industries. Her range of experience includes organizations from multiple sectors, such as IT, automotive, power, insurance, and healthcare. She has supported both private as well as public sector clients. Her areas of specialty include HR process transformation, organization restructuring, HR restructuring, performance management system design, and change management. Welcome, Uma.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Asta.
Before we move to the discussion, a quick note for all our attendees. I would request all of you to keep the momentum up of the conversation with questions that you can post in the chat box. We will bring them up during the Q&A. Now over to you, Uma.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be interacting with all of you and with the esteemed panelists. So, uh, thank you for joining us. And yeah, we hope to enjoy the conversation, and we really hope that we can make it as insightful for all of you. So, with that, let me get started. Um, so we're all very aware of the dynamic business context that all organizations operate in, and especially when we look at organizations in Asia is being rooted as the pivotal center of growth, with a very unique growth strategy, right? And we've seen multiple changes and shifts in the way that the global environment is operating, yet Asia has continued to perform and emerge strong in terms of its growth trajectory. With the whole context and with the dynamic changes that we have been seeing in the past few years, what we're also seeing is that the workforce expectations have also been shifting, and the pace of change in these workforce expectations are far higher as compared to say about 10 or 15 years back. So organizations are not only coping up with dynamic business changes and navigating the complex environment, but they're also balancing with shifting workforce expectations altogether. So to get started and to set the context for the conversation that lies ahead, I'd I'd like to throw this open to the panelists, that in these times of, dynamic business changes and shifting expectations, what do you believe are the three most important things that talent looks for in their ideal employer?
Krishna, can I go first? So,
Oh, sure. So,
so yeah. So
sure, sure, good.
it actually resonate to the mantra what we believe. For our company, we have the mantra of GQP. I'll explain what is GQ and P. G stands for growth, Q stands for quality, and P stands for profitability. So we kind of know connect both the GQP for not only for the company but also for the employees. When we call the growth for company, growth is nothing but how do you grow in your AEM, whether you have added employees, you have created new zones, added new customers for the company, and we call the growth factor for the employees as whether am I learning in my role, am I feeling better than of the past in my role, whether the current role helps me to grow in my career, whether am I getting my own development in the organization. So we have growth, we have quality. We talk about getting the high quality customers for us, and thus our NPAs are maybe nearly to zero. We have very less delinquency. The same quality applies to the employees also. Whether we are working in a quality work environment, whether am I getting a lot of quality learning initiative from my bosses, and then the P stands for profit. For the employee, it's their own earning, their own what you call social status, the total reward, the respect, what they gain from the company. So we have this the three things in our company as the value proposition.
Beautifully
That's
put up, Ganpati. In fact, at Bajaj Allianz Life, we have something similar, but we kind of look at employee being at the heart of all our designs. So that's where our EVP also kind of starts emanating from the fact that how do we differentiate each employee's need in our EVP and build that in our processes. That's where the whole process of value proposition starts for us. Insurance is a product where people don't wake up every day in the morning to say, okay, hey, I'm going to buy an insurance today. So you need to have a workforce which believes in the cause of the organization that you want to represent for. So what people today and post COVID we have realized, and post COVID and pre COVID era were very different for the insurance sector. People have started valuing life. People have started valuing lifestyles. So for them, it all depends on how well can you understand the psychological need and empathize with them as to what their need is. So for us, it starts with our recruitment process where we do a thorough profiling of what is the motivation for the guy to join us. We then built it up with our onboarding processes to make it very smooth. Assimilation happens faster for the guy, for him to become productive, and eventually that helps company being profitable, obviously. But also in our performance appraisal processes. So how do I set the context for the employee to perform? How can I make an ecosystem which is viable for him to perform without feeling threatened of performance outcomes? And most importantly, how can he innovate at work? I mean, can he think beyond what is obvious in the insurance sector and do something which is very different? So these are some of the key things that we provide, and we communicate this and rather over communicate this to our employees so that they start believing in the whole process of a value proposition, and rather than kind of just being it on paper and on walls.
That's thank you, Ganapati and Krishna, and that's really incredible. And Ganapati, when you said GQP for both organizations and employees, what's really interesting is the alignment, right? Like you are talking about business outcomes and talent outcomes, and you've literally synced them up, ensuring that the value for both the organizations, for both organizations and employees, is distinct yet really aligned. So very, very interesting takeaway. And Krishna, I think it's very interesting, the concept of shared purpose, right? And that getting infused and making sure that you carry your employees through each process, and you infuse that concept of shared purpose through all processes within HR, which kind of reinforces the EVP altogether. So, very, very interesting perspective. So, thank you so much for sharing this. Um, all right. So, with that, and I think with both of our leaders acknowledging the importance of keeping employees aligned to the business needs and at the center of decision making, I think it's a good segue for us to get deeper into the topic of EVP, right? So, when we look at the way organizations develop their EVPs, um, what we've noticed is that they follow a certain methodology or a structure to actually really get into the core of what employees really expect, and how, and then really trying to prioritize and deliver on the expectations. So to begin with, we understand that organizations listen to the needs or expectations of the employees. Then after they've listened to the whole thing, they prioritize the key elements that they want to build into their EVP. And after the prioritization happens, there's this whole process of communication and reinforcing the organization's EVP to ensure that everyone internally as well as externally understands the organization's EVP. And I think the biggest part is ensuring that what has been communicated is delivered in the day-to-day experiences of employees, right? Like, how do you ensure that the big and the small moments are infused with the organization's EVP? And then comes the whole critical part of monitoring the delivery of EVP, seeing areas where the organization is overperforming, seeing and identifying areas of improvement, and then taking these inputs to really recalibrate the EVP, given the fact that workforce expectations are constantly shifting. So if we look at this whole process of listening, prioritizing, communicating, delivering, monitoring, and recalibrating as the broad frame of EVP, we'd love to understand from our panelists how they navigate this process for their organization. And through this, I mean, and as they do that, how they actually unlock the potential of technology for this. So my request to the panelists, while I do have questions, but please do feel free to add if there are any other different things that both of you do to be able to uncover what it means to understand EVP and deliver on that. So, would love to hear from you. But to just get started, like the first question, and I'd like Ganapati, if I could request you to answer this. Darwin Box recently conducted a research, and our research showed that about two-thirds of our CXOs are increasingly prioritizing the employee experience. And this is significantly different from last year, where it was only one-third of CXOs who were prioritizing experience, right? So given this rising emphasis on experience, what actionable steps do you think HR leaders can take to ensure that the EVP translates into meaningful and positive experiences, both digital and offline, for employees? And where do you see technology playing a big role, and where do you see that it is limited in terms of what it can do?
Yeah,
So Ganapati, if you could take this.
yeah, that's a great question. As you rightly said, the X factor has actually got into a momentum and then geared up a lot, particularly post the COVID. And in the last 2 3 years, we had a talent war, and then people are looking for a meaningful contribution. So the X factor remains, the critical factor forever. So where employee get an experience, the experience comes through either the physical mode of working, or on the digital mode, or on the culture. So these are all the three, kind of places where you get again the experience. While on the physical atmosphere, you tend to connect to your team. Actually, the team plays a great role. They help you in your day-to-day work life. They give not only work support, but yeah, emotional and mental support. But no, during COVID, you got kind of understood how to work offline, sorry, online. And then so then comes the digital mode of working. So in the digital, you know that no, you are muted is the most famous word which was used all the time. So it is not only just muted, but no, we also got disconnected somehow working through a community or through a function. When I call it as working in an organization, you also create internal community and then functions, maybe through geography, maybe through working for a different departments. So we are all trying to grapple with this problem of know how to kind of know make people to work together in a digital format. In a physical mode, it is much easier. People know that yes, they are working for a purpose, and the purpose are being emphasized clearly. Every town hall meet, when you do a department meet, so on and so forth. In a digital program, no, you talk about a particular problem or you set the particular tone of that issue, and then you close that. Our employee is actually trying to contribute what he or she is supposed to do. So in digital, definitely there are advantages, but there are a lot of disadvantages too. So we will cover that while we kind of move on. The company culture, of course, plays a pivotal role. Many companies are trying to create a very positive and value-based, transparent culture. They are also trying to push their leaders to be a servant leadership. They want to create something like a servant leadership model, and then be empathetic with their employees. So, is that be possible in a digital node? That is the question now we need to answer. It is possible now if you create a very human centric approach, what Krishna was telling in the beginning of the session. It is possible if you put all your thoughts together and then create a value proposition which helps the employee to realize that this is the place I need to be, and I want to contribute. And I have a couple of points I have actually noted down. Maybe if you kind of build a deeper connection. So the connection is not a lip service, but tell them the purpose, make them a purpose driven teams. So that they, if I want to be working only for a marketing or a sales team, you put the person into a back office team, they may not be loving the role. So you need to understand what they want to do, the employee wanted to do, and then you kind of create the deeper connection, then create that internal community, so that they kind of connect to each other, for not only telling about their best practice, but for also support purpose. Many the time when you want a support, you can always talk about your achievements, and then take credit of it. But when I need a support, that's the time you need somebody to coach you, maybe mentor you, and then come forward. So you need to create a deep connection among the team. And you also need to sometime I feel we need to kind of train our managers how they can empathetically approach these things, because many of the time it's not the HR team, or it's not the technology team, or it's not any of the function, it is the line managers. And if I lead a team of 15, I think those 15 would be looking for me, looking out to me for a lot of solutions. So how the line managers empathetically connect with a deep sense of belongingness, I think that's something is the number one point. I think you also need a radical flexibility. Today people look for a lot of options. It's not just restricted to work from home, or uh, I would always call it working for home, because we are a home finance company. So whether you work from home or work online or offline, it's not restricted to that. No, it's beyond that. No, whether can I contribute to a very different project? Can I be part of that team? That's something is my passion. Whether am I getting a different and equal opportunity within the organization. So that if you create that kind of a flexible organization where the employee can actually open up, and then uh, maybe work for a different teams and a different timings. That's the kind of support people are looking for. The third and most important thing is the create a personal growth opportunity. Because many the time during when I sit for exit interviews, or when I do an interview for hiring, the far most important thing the person says is I'm actually looking for an opportunity because I'm looking for a growth. So if we could able to create that kind of a growth within an organization, just imagine, no, how much money and time and energy you are spending to grow this person. And you have, yeah, great career maps, succession planning. You put person into that succession for an individual employee, and suddenly you realize, no, you can give an option to only one person. What happens to the two people, no, whom you actually identified as a successor, but you are not able to give that kind of a position? So somewhere, no, you need to identify and create no different channel of operation. Not if I am working for a HR, no, HR is not the only way I can grow. I can grow into business. I can grow into some kind of an operation. I can learn new tricks and trades. So if you create that kind of a thing, and of course the mental well-being and the holistic well-being is getting geared up post pandemic. Of course, you need to look at the well-being of all your employee, because a productive employee would love to contribute more. You need to ensure if he or she want to be a productive employee, you need to ensure their sense of happiness and then well-being stitched, along with your EVP. And then last but not least, the shared what do you call, the purpose, how you share it, how you make them, all of them think together to achieve the same target. So if your different teams started thinking very differently to achieve the target very differently, you will reach nowhere. So there should be a kind of synergy, there should be a kind of same thought process you need to build. Of course, all these things are easier to say, but very difficult to practice. You also asked a very pertinent question whether digital has some limitations too. Of course, I agree. Digital has a lot of limitations. While it helps you to kind of grow 10x, 20x, 15x, it also put you on your back seat. When it comes to kind of an investment, what you need to make. The platform changes every alternate day. You try to implement a new model. By then, you realize there is a new model available. The cost, the change management, what you need to implement, because now you have different types of team working for you. That is Gen X, Y, Z, all those teams are working for you. So taking them into the same platform, helping them to get into the change management is something, yeah, very serious stuff. Each company goes through. I think those are all the critical challenges. Of course, I would say the investment is the last one, whereas the change management is the first and foremost one.
Uh,
Yeah.
Very interesting, and thank you so much for such an insightful answer, Ganapati. And what I think I really liked is, how you started in the beginning with three different blocks of saying physical, digital, and culture. And I think through the answer, you brought everything together to, those five key themes. And I think the one thing that stood out for me as you talked about working together, shared purpose, radical flexibility, personal growth. I think you very distinctly called out the human aspect of it in each of those, right? Like where your digital workplace, your physical workplace, etc., can at best catalyze what you're trying to do, but there's that human connection which you've
True.
really emphasized on. So very interesting, and I think it's a very interesting dynamic of this whole techno-human. Combination that I think all organizations are. So we're optimizing investments, yet we need to retain that whole human connect with employees. So, yeah, thank you. Very, very interesting insight and takeaway for us. So, thank you so much. All right. So, uh, I mean, I'll move on to the to the next part now. And Krishna, it'll be great if you could elaborate more on I mean, while at the broader level, Ganapati's talked to us about the EVP and how you're translating that into experiences for employees. But as we get a little deeper, could you just help us understand how you listen to business and the candidate and the employee expectations? Like how do you really go deep, and how do you ensure that you're listening to the right voice? And to this end, what role does HR technology play in ensuring that your EVP not only resonates with potential employees but also authentically reflects the company's mission, culture, and strategic objectives? So it'll be great for us to hear from you on that.
Sure. So that's an interesting take that Ganpati gave on the tech part. Where he did express that tech kind of has its own limitations, but somewhere I want to believe that tech is a big enabler. I mean, as much as it is a limiter of many things, but it just enables a lot of things that can't happen otherwise. And the whole workforce today is moving into a hybrid model. I mean, there's no work from home, there's no work from office, there's no work-life balance, so to say. I mean, your work is your life and your life is your work. Having said that, the aspect that you're wanting to highlight on, which is listening, becomes very very important in any aspect of your key people processes. One, a listening session gives you that insight of having multiple brains think about it and talk about it and give you inputs. So to begin with, that becomes your feeder for design thinking. And also a proactive listening at every stage of the implementation also helps you to course correct, so you don't have to wait for a failure to occur and then kind of again get into a business process reengineering to see how things can shape up. At Bajaj Allianz Life, the listening is a DNA. It's a DNA of the organization. I mean, we have been awarded Great Place to Work, Best Employer for 2-3 years in a row now. But one proposition that stands out distinctly for Bajaj Allianz Life is that we are a listening organization, and we have institutionalized the way we listen. Like, for example, and I'll move to the employee part and then come to the candidate part where the tech would come in. But from an employee perspective, we are spread across geographically. So we have about 500 branches spread across many cities in India, 700 cities to be very precise. So the way we formalize the listening process is through something called as a regional business council. And every Mancom member, and Mancom, I mean the CEO minus one, owns up a particular region. So there are 11 Mancom members, and all the states in India are divided into these 11 Mancoms. And we make it a point that every quarter there's a listening session of these employees in that quarter that happens physically. I mean, during COVID, we did it digitally and we did it very well, and I'll touch upon that part later. But this whole aspect of you being physically there or even digitally to be able to listen to what your employees have to tell you. And the problem could be very simple, like I don't have enough seating space in my branch. My AC is not working. But the forum where you start encouraging people to talk about issues, it could be as small as the one that I mentioned to as big as, in my business process I don't have this digitized. Why do I have to go to a customer and wait for getting this data from customer, where I can go to a bureau and get it at maybe a faster speed? So some of those ideas do come from the ground, and we as an organization have made it a point that our ears are always on the ground throughout the year. So that's one area on the business councils. We also have something called as Voice of Internal Employees, which we run digitally through a survey once every 6 months for all support functions. So this is where the sales organization comes and rates the support organization of BALIC on the services that they provide. And there are two themes that we run. How effective is the department who's giving me service? And what is the significance of the contribution of the department in my life? So these two cohorts become very, very important and very, very powerful for us to frame our next set of projects, next set of enhancements, next set of goals for the organization. And all of this is beautifully built in into a performance management system and also into a reward mechanism. So what I want to tell you is, if your listening mechanism, be it digital, be it physical, is centered around the employee and it is done with the right spirit, you get a phenomenal boost in terms of all the three cohorts that Ganpati had mentioned. I mean, the end result is that the company benefits. We have been the fastest growing life insurance company post pandemic.
Yeah.
I remember when I joined this organization about 4.5-4 years back, we were about 9,000. So today, as I speak, we are 23,000. So we have invested systematically on our digital assets through RPAs, which is robotic process automation, through success factors being our HRMS, through a lot of tools around psychometric testing around how do we get candidates, what do we ask them in terms of how are they going to align to the mission of my organization? How can I figure out those touch points where I need to train them on certain aspects of them being productive in the field and giving me the results that I want?
Yeah.
So digital for Bajaj Allianz has been a key enabler, um, to the tune where the organization has grown. We have become hugely profitable, immensely profitable, and we continue to aspire to be the number one, at least number three in the top three ranks. So one particular aspect, which is digital automation, combined with this aspect of listening to your employees, is something which at Bajaj Allianz Life has been the fulcrum of our growth story.
Awesome. Awesome. And thank you so much, Krishna. I think some very, very interesting notes that I picked up from you. I think you started with multiple brains. So I think the whole concept of DEI and diversity in who you hear from and how you hear, and proactively, right? Like you're not waiting for things, but that proactive. And also, I think another very interesting thing that's come up is just the involvement of different people. It's not just HR listening, but there are business leaders who are listening. And when you get business leaders to proactively listen, the solution is practically instant, right? Like you don't have to navigate through the whole bureaucratic process. And
Absolutely.
you've literally use technology to embed listening in the very intuitively in the employee's workflow. So which makes you not only react but literally predict what's going to happen and probably proactively take action. So very, very interesting. And I think another one that I heard was the whole feedback culture. So when you typically say surveys, you expect HR to render the survey and you expect employees, but I think very interesting dynamic where you're asking different functions to rate each other, which not only fosters an open communication culture but also encourages people to help each other improve and really optimize the way they serve each other. So
And it
it's
all
very,
beautifully ties up into your performance culture and the reward culture, which are
yeah,
equal pillars of your EVP.
yeah. And then you bring that and then you tie that back into the HR function. So incredible. Thank you. Very insightful.
Pleasure.
Awesome. Um, all right. So, all right. Now, Ganapati, taking the taking the panel back to you. So, we've talked about what organizations are doing and how you can listen. Now, can you? I mean, would you be able to tell us, how you communicate this this value proposition to various stakeholders in the organization. So there's employees, there's external, there's business leader, there's manager, there are external candidates. So how do you effectively manage the communication of this value proposition, both through offline and digital touch points?
Yeah. See, many the time I used to think, not just communicating the EVP, but acting and then standing tall as per what we communicate makes the difference. Of course, the communication channel is critical and pivotal, and plays a really great role in terms
Mm,
of making employee to stay in an organization. If they don't know the benefits, they will look for the similar benefits from a different company. So it's worthwhile investing in communicating the thing. But it's not just communicating, it's making the people to feel that yeah, I'm getting this from this organization. We normally use a lot of storytelling, and then we put people around it. For example, I can tell you can join this company, grow this in the organization. So when we go to the campus, we take a person who joined from the campus. He joined 10 15 year. Sometime the faculties would have been changed. Some, of course, the student would change. But no, when you see your super senior coming and then talking about how he joined this company, and then uh, where he grown, so that kind of a communication helps attracting talent. For internal thing, we ran something called Sundaram Parampara. Yeah, there was a program we ran across. It was centered around talking about our values and ethos, why we actually why we do what we do is the fulcrum of the program. And people shared a lot of their own stories, what how they joined, what are the experience they had. All there are a lot of positive experience to share, how they met the customer. There was a customer issue, how they sorted those customer issue, how they took the decision in a tough time. So when you meet a NPA customer, when you go for a recovery call, um, um, particularly when you go for a recovery call for a politician, you know, how managing those kind of very interesting stories evolved. And I think you know that communication stands out, and you need to communicate. But no, interestingly, I was looking at a survey, a recent survey, which talked about why people join an organization as well as why people leave the organization. I have certain fact and figure in front of me. It says employee choose to join an organization for career growth, brand value, rewarding work environment, and then the compensations stacked around seventh or eighth position in this list. But while you look at why people are leaving, it says the reason for leaving career growth, of course that's the predominant one, but it also goes with a compensation, work-life balance, and flexibility. So what people are looking for, many companies are actually gaining on the creating a reward recognition, learning organization. I think those are all the what do you call the minimum expectation from today's people. So they look at work life balance, flexibility, and then they look for a kind of uh, achieving their own ambitions and goals. So what I want to say here is there is no second thought of you not communicating something to people. Communication is the paramount. You need to communicate not only the value proposition through all the channels. You can have channels like your town hall meet, storytelling, your newsletters, experience sharing through your digital modem. You can share in all those modems. And the most important aspect is not just communicating, but implementing whatever you communicate. So if you don't implement, it will become a joke. So, and today, organizations are spending huge amount of money to communicate not only internal but to the external stakeholder also. But no, today you have something called a social media. You have your glass doors. So if you don't do something right, the media will pick you very fast than whatever you think. No, they are filled like an air everywhere. So I think um, uh, the ways you have all the digital ways to communicate. You also you need to I would say that include employees on the communication journey. It should not be that a top driven approach, or some of them are communicating, some of them are listening. It should be a kind of a co-owned program.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
uh, that's I think, and I mean, thank you so much. And I think Krishna Ganapati, what I'm hearing from both of you, right, in different answers is. I think increasingly the role of HR is largely as an enabler and a facilitator, but we want the main stakeholders to be the employees and the managers and the business leaders who own the experience, who deliver the experience, who co-own the solution along with HR, right? Like it's the time of co-creation. So, and it's not just about the story that is told. It is about who tells the story and how authentic it is in terms of how it is delivered and what people experience it. So thank you. I mean, very, very insightful here. And I think that's a great segue, right, for me to go into the next question. So Krishna, I mean, there are so many moments that Ganapati spoke about, right? Like, and how you make that experience really authentic. So when we talk about that, um, would you help us understand, what principles do you consider while prioritizing these key moments, that matter? Like, how do you identify that this is the moment that's really going to generate that impact? And how do you identify the persona so that the EVP you want to deliver is really authentic? So, our Darwin Box research indicated that there are four pillars of delivering experience, and that's based on transparency, support, trust, and empathy. So I'd just love to understand how you infuse this, or if there's a different approach you take and you prioritize personas and moments that matter, and the places where technology helps you do that.
Yeah. So uh, Ganapati touched upon this aspect, and I did also mention one area which was critical to this whole process of building your EVP, designing and knowing these moments, is all about how authentic are you in your approach,
mm,
and as you rightly summarized it, who delivers the story for you.
mm,
So the minute the story becomes an HR theory based journey, I think half of the problem is started, and then it will compound further. So what we do, and this is something that I would also advocate in many places to be followed, is to build success stories out of the business leaders on a particular case where you believe that there is a problem. Just to give an example, life insurance industry is plagued with attrition as a perennial problem across the sector, across the industry. So you have a handful of good organizations, top seven, eight, and then you have a long tail. Uh, so the churn happens within this organization. So it's a herd mentality that people follow. So the manager leaves, you have a whole lot of people following suit. Now, how do you break that jinx? How do you break that barrier? You have to think something which is tangentially different from what is happening in the market, in the industry. Now, if you have to pick that as a moment, the thought process has to be completely different. It can't emerge from a fact that, let's retain people by giving them higher salary, let's talk about work life balance, etc., etc. People have to really feel valued in whatever they do. So, two pillars once the guy is in your system. One is how well, and Ganapati did articulate that very well, in sense of how well is he learning on the job? Is he picking up a new skill set? And the world today is changing. I mean, we did not touch upon the famous subject chat GPT yet, but how many jobs are going to go away is anybody's guess. I mean, we are sitting virtually and talking about all of these things, but we don't know. I mean, all of this information could be available to all the audience sitting here on the click of a mouse tomorrow. So we don't know. Now, how do you therefore reshape this entire workforce to start thinking very, very differently? Something that has never been done, if attempted to be done, needs to be thought through in a very different manner where nobody has thought through it. So, the most important aspect is who tells the story, who facilitates this story. So, the minute HR gets into a zone where we become the facilitator of the story and the success lies with business, you have a perfect case study for success. You have an equal perfect recipe for disaster if everything is in theory. You have those golden circles of EVP where you talk about learning, skill, career growth, etc., etc., etc. But in reality the business is not doing well, there is humongous amount of attrition, there is no consistency in business line. So you will not be able to be a learning organization, or you will not be an organization to give careers. So how well is this story anchored, and with who? You did ask at the beginning that CXOs are taking interest in EVP. The single biggest reason is very, very selfish: profitability of the organization. So, if the profitability of the organization has to be impacted, the CEO has to own up. How does he want to view his people? It's his people. End of the day, HR is just the custodian of policy, custodian of culture, etc., 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 and so many other things. But our role is very, very cut out and very clear in my mind. We have to be the facilitators, be it tech, be it non-tech, be it visible, be it non-visible, empathy, culture. There are many compounds to this chemical. But the single biggest thing that will help us achieve anything that we want to do in this whole EVP journey is who is telling the story.
yeah,
And how authentic is the story?
yeah,
And does your CEO believe in that story or not? And is it
yeah,
narrated by him? So if all these ingredients are blended together very well, you will have a perfect EVP made for you. And without you communicating enough about your EVP, people will start experiencing it. So it's the E bar, as I call it. You experience something to believe it.
mm,
You believe in something. You take action, and when you take action, the results are just an outcome.
yeah,
So if you follow this journey in your EVP creation, half of the job is done.
yeah,
And for us, these personas come from the ground because we are a listening organization. The moments and the personas are defined by the employee, not by us.
yeah,
So if the business has a problem, we make it our because we are the SMEs, we are the experts. So we make it our journey to help them get out of that situation and build something which is sustainable, long term, impactful, etc., etc., etc.
yeah. It's very interesting, and I think also a little different from what we have seen, right? Like typically, um, we look at survey data to identify which persona. We do a lot of that. But I really like the fact that you are literally asking the business and the CEO and the employees which is the persona that they want to solve for, and you make them the identifier of the problem, and that's when the ownership of solutioning starts, right? And then you co-own that through the journey. So I think a very distinct approach from how we have traditionally seen folks in organizations define personas. So thank you. That's I think a very very interesting takeaway here. So I mean, uh, I, I, I mean, Ganapati, I think I'll pivot this to you right now. Like, uh, and I see also in this, I see in the chat questions also that there are a lot of questions around measurement. I mean, I think there are some questions around how do you specifically measure certain initiatives altogether. But I think I'll just broaden that, and I'll just take this up, right? Um, we've talked, I think, through this entire conversation, we've talked about the fact that there are a lot of like we have flexible work arrangements, there's digital transformation, there's a changing dynamic, etc. I think while organizations are doing a lot, there is also, there's this rise of microcultures where people start feeling a little disconnected and disengagement altogether. So I mean, with so much happening where we're trying to chase and we're trying to identify and we're trying to figure out, um, it'd just be wonderful to understand. I mean, and in the chat, our friends here have also talked about new concepts like moonlighting, not being productive, absenteeism, etc., etc. So to address all this, how do you think organizations can effectively use data driven insights to to adapt their EVP and keep their employees more connected, and motivated in this dynamic tech-driven environment? So we just love to hear from you on use of analytics to measure and drive certain key initiatives for the organization.
Yeah. You talked about moonlighting. You talked about the ROI part of it. How to analyze and get the ROI. Why a person is doing a moonlighting? He can actually contribute much bigger role than what he is currently doing, right? So you really need to understand and double click of the contribution, whether the role is actually is there a 8 10 hour work, is something the person can contribute beyond what he is doing or she is doing in the current level of work. So if you could able to kind of understand and then create a performance metrics which actually helps you to kind of achieve the organizational goal or the departmental goal, I think moonlighting can be avoided. Number one. Number two, the moonlighting is happening because I really want to be a gig worker. I want to contribute only for a portion of it. Then we are doing it actually. The consultants are the moonlighters, right? They are working for different companies. It's only the mindset that no, we don't want an employee to go and then contribute to some other organization. So there are companies like Toyota. They were actually allowing employees to go and contribute for other companies also. They said no, you can come learn if you want. We will allow our employees to come and work in your plant. So I think that's a very lesser of an issue. Maybe on the return on investment, see you have so many metrics. You can look at your attrition data, retention data. So when you have real competitive advantage when with your competitor through your EVP, then that should showcase in your data. So if I say that no, my attrition is at X percentage and my competition is at X plus, um, maybe 30 40 percentage less than my competition, then you are actually telling the management that no, what you are doing is working fine. For example, no, when there was a talent war, when people were finding it difficult to attract and retain talent, we could able to navigate with half of the attrition of the best in competitor. So that shows the very different culture. In fact, what we did was we kind of collected a lot of data from other organization, from the consultant, and then we published it. The attrition rate of HFC is so and so, and then we are at this percentage. So that also makes employee to think, why people are staying in the organization. Okay. With related to probably the career growth, you take, somebody joined from you pick a particular college. Somebody would have joined some 10 years, 12 years before, and then ask that person to tell, where his friend is, how many hops he made, and then where is he in terms of social status, the position, the kind of learning. So he would be more than enough for you to tell the return on investment. So certain things are very analytical in nature, hard in number. Certain things are very emotional. I always look at the emotional part of ROI, so that, it kind of connects to people so deeper. While the board will look for very analytical number, your attrition rate, your learning expenditure with the return on investment, your process improvement, so on and so forth. But you connect more emotional, and then make the purpose very visible to all others. I think our job is done.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think we continue on that whole human touch and how you feel about what you're taking rather than just looking at data. And but before I move to the closing remarks, Krishna, would love to hear from you also. In terms of the way that you use data and analytics, and how you use that to inform or guide decisions.
See, for us, I mean, insurance, about 3 4 years back, for that matter of fact, BFSI also,
Mm,
till a while back, till big data happened, was all about your affinity with the customer. So it was a affinity driven business, core to the branch, nearer to the branch, affluent population, etc., etc., etc. But since the big data availability has come in, the cloud technologies have come in, it's more about how well you are able to understand the population and how well are you able to target the population to get the best out of it. So, for
mm,
example, for us, we have various applications and
mm,
various sources of data that is available to us. Uh, so, how does one channelize the data in a manner where, if I know the Aadhaar card of a person, if the person has applied for a loan or for an insurance at anywhere in the Bajaj group, can I have a data mart which tells me, which goes into the CIBIL bureau and gets the information and says, okay, his credit score is so and so, his worthiness is so and so. He has a house here, so he's maybe in this affluent category.
mm,
Probably his payslips, Form 16's ITRs are so and so in the last 6 months, so he has a ability to buy so and so insurance. So
mm,
for us now, the new source of business engine is going to be how well am I able to look at the data and define and analyze it. Now, an extension of that to HR. My traditional hiring also used to happen in a way where, if I'm closer to the branch, I have a propensity to hire the person who will can be
mm,
available. But now, with the analytics available around the persona, available around his past success, future success, his own credit score, can I do a job fitment for this person in the job that I want him to be? I mean, I
mm,
can't have a person in a finance role who has a bad credit score.
mm,
So, how can data help me
mm,
look at the way my prospective candidates have been in their pre-hiring stages? How have they done in the psychometric test? What is the volatility that they bring into the job? I mean, at what trigger point will they break down? And
mm,
hence, what is the insight that I need to give to the manager to handle this person?
mm,
So we are going to that level of data analytics now. It's not just limited to, you know, performance rating kya hai. So lag indicators, as I call it. I mean,
mm,
after the performance has happened, there's no point giving a lot of data to the management saying, you know what, this is what happened. But how
mm,
can I use the data in a much more
mm,
proactive manner to
mm,
give them insights which are leading and telling them, no, don't behave in this manner. If you behave in this manner consistently, there will be attrition.
mm,
Rather, if you behave in this manner, there will be a reduction in attrition. So, how can I put a positive spin around the data and bring those people practices to light? Is where we focus on the whole data aspect of the process. And that's also building to your EVP, because if the employee believes, you know what, my HR team knows me before they've called me for a one-on-one or for a
mm,
focus group discussion. They know
mm.
my problem, so they start opening up and giving you more insights about the issue.
Mm.
So it's
It's
all
very,
about a
yeah.
journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think you're trying to identify more non-obvious patterns and use that to coach managers to rather pivot rather than using that traditionally as we would against to take more corrective action. So I mean,
Absolutely.
I think again, there's an extension of the whole human aspect of it and giving people the space to improve and coaching managers to better deal with employees. So I think it's been a very unifying theme, I think, despite the diversity of the questions today. I know we have about 5 minutes left. We'll take a few questions towards the end. But before we close, Ganapati, Krishna, just very quick thoughts on, in one line, if you had to summarize the pivotal role of HR technology in shaping the future of EVP, um, and its impact on the evolving workforce. Would love to hear this is a closing remark from both of you.
Yeah. See, I would say gone are the days where HR technology was supporting the HR. Today, it is the center. In fact, I get confused whether we are working on technology or HR. Technology is driving HR. Okay, so with the AI, ML, workforce analytics, I think the high tech is going to continue. The hybrid work environment is going to continue. It is the time know how agile we are, how nimble and simple we are. That is going to make the a very different EVP. How you are creating a very different competitive advantage platform, that is going to make the difference. Now each person, each employee will live a very similar experience or very synchronized same experience, and that's what you need to. So the only thing you need to also be little aware of your data protection.
Right.
While everything is on the cloud, you also need to be little more careful. I think that's my closing remark. And I would like to state and reiterate, a happy employee not only bring a great business, you also bring a prospective candidate too.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Krishna, closing from you.
No, so I completely echo with what Ganapati is saying. In fact, few months, I mean, before COVID, we were in a VUCA world. Now we are in a Bani world, and I don't know how many worlds we'll be surviving through. But the key aspect, as Ganapati had said, and I've been a big proponent of it for the last 11, 12 years that I've been looking at employee experience as a portfolio, is how well can I understand my employee. I mean, it's very easy for me to make a statement that I empathize with you, but unless I have really, really understood the problem, I can't empathize.
Mm,
And the employee will know. The employee will definitely know whether you really understand or not.
mm,
So how can I use tech to
mm,
influence my decision makers in the organization to be really, really empathetic towards an employee, which a system can't do. I mean, the system can throw data at me,
mm,
but how can I use the data? How can I use the analytics to really, really bring in that aspect which I specialize in? When I say I'm representing HR here, which HR specializes in, is to talk about the employee in terms of his empathy, well-being, social security,
mm,
soft and brittle moments that he will experience through the journey in your organization. So how can I bridge that through
mm.
technologies where the whole success of technology lies?
It's incredible. I mean, and also an area of keen interest to us is Darwin Box too, right? Like that's, I think, the pivotal journey. So thank you, Ganapati and Krishna, so much. It's been very, very insightful. I know we have about 2 minutes. I was skimming through the questions. I think there's one or two we'll try to pick up. So one question we got is, how can smaller companies or startups with limited resources, develop a strong EVP and effectively compete for top talent, right? Like we don't have that much money, yet we want to be strong. So, what's your guidance for smaller organizations?
So I'll take a shot at this question and I'll try to respond. See, when Apples and Googles and everybody started, I don't think so. They were in the charts. So nobody knew this company. Okay, it's about the value that they bought on the table and the alignment that they did, the shared purpose, as I said. So,
Mm,
do you believe that your business has a purpose to share with the employee that you're hiring? Do you believe that there is a common goal, either
mm,
towards the society or towards the company or towards yourself, whatever be the cause of the organization which you represent? If you, as HR, believe that this is what I stand for and what I represent for, trust me, you will be true to the candidate when he comes to you at your doors. You will be able to explain him a job description. You will be able to offer him a lesser salary, but still he will be motivated enough to join you. So if you get this piece right of how well your senior management wants to define the purpose and the common purpose, is where your journey starts.
Awesome. Awesome. And maybe I can just ask one more quick question, and maybe taking the cue from you also, Krishna, here. Like, you're senior manager. So, uh, how do we ensure that you still uphold the value of inclusion, um, which is infused in the way that your business leaders also think about it? Because I know though there's been a huge pivotal shift now and the EI has become critical, but we're still building a business case for it, right? How do you ensure inclusion while putting the onus on business? So if while delivering the EVP, I think that'll be
So
interesting.
the only aspect that I'll be worried about is the diversity aspect of thought,
Hmm.
not gender, not diversity of thought. So HR's role here becomes pivotal to ensure that there is enough and more in the ecosystem which supports the whole aspect of diversity around the thought.
Hmm.
The common goals, the common purpose, the common problems will prevail. I mean that's why we are here, to solve
Hmm.
for the problem. But how well can I create an ecosystem where the whole process of diversity of thought is accommodated in my culture,
Hmm.
is where HR will have to play a pivotal role in this entire journey.
Incredible. Yeah, awesome. And so we're talking about shifting the mental model and just seeing how you can make people start thinking differently and hence shape the way that they think through the journey.
It has to
So,
happen inorganically. You can't
yeah,
force. There is no perfect model. There's no theory around this. It has to
yeah,
happen inorganically, but the ecosystem has to be built in, supported, created, facilitated, and everything else that has to be done by HR.
yeah, yeah.
If I just want to add, if you create a culture, very open culture, a non-threatening, what Krishna was telling earlier, if you can create that one, no, people will be wanting to share their thoughts. Everybody want their they want to be successful, and then they want their company to be successful,
Mm.
and they know
Yeah,
that no, if the company succeed, they will get their merits,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. So I think changing the way that we think creates and making a more holistic culture creates more psychological safety that ensures that we're hearing each other out openly and delivering an authentic experience. So, well, thank you. On that note, Krishna, Ganapati, thank you so much. An extremely insightful conversation. I'm going to hand it back to Astha. Astha, over to you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your insights. It was a very insightful session. I think we all agreed on so many things, despite, as Uma said, the diversity in question, the diversity of the questions. So, thank you so much. I would also like to thank our partner for the session, Darwinbox. Darwinbox is the leading provider of cloud based human resources management software and serves over 800 organizations and 2.2 million employees across 116 countries, including large conglomerates and fast growing technology. They've also been recognized as the number one customer's choice HCM by Gartner globally. For more details, you can visit the website darwinbox.com. A big thank you to all our attendees. With this, we wrap up today's session. Don't forget to provide your feedback in the survey link in the chat section because your input matters to us. Stay tuned for many more such exciting conversations. This is Astha Gupta. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, People
thank
Matters. Thank
thank
you,
you
Darwin, and thank you, all participants. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank
thank you,
you.
people.